All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is our fifth and final session of the Renew Education series. So I hope that you have learned something from these sessions, and if you have any feedback on anything that we've talked about, I do ask that you complete the feedback forms that you've received in your email. That will help us shape the future presentations and make any adjustments that can make this better for future participants. So again, thank you for joining us tonight. This is the presentation with our dietitian. So during the presentation, you are free to ask questions as they come up, so you can put them into the chat, or you can ask them on the mic if you're comfortable. We just ask that you keep your microphone muted during the presentation unless you want to speak. The session will be recorded as the other ones have, and we will send a copy of the slides as well as the recording to you via email following the presentation. Oh, there's one more person just joining, so I'm just gonna let them into the room, and then so just wanted to introduce you this evening to our presenter. This is Anna, and she's one of the dietitians here with the Windsor Regional Cancer Program, and she's got a great presentation for you this evening. Take it away, Anna.
Okay. Thank you, Shannon. Sorry, I'm just gonna. There we go. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me tonight for our nutrition course. Please feel free to ask questions, as Shannon had mentioned, and if there's anything that maybe we do miss on this presentation that doesn't answer some of your own nutrition questions, so please feel free to reach out to us and we can answer those later on for you. Okay, so just an overview of some of the topics we're going to be going over. Healthy eating and why it matters. Vegetables and fruit, healthy proteins, whole grains, and functional foods. How we can put all of these great nutrients together to help benefit us. We're going to touch a little bit on alcohol, healthy weight, and sugar. And some other topics that do come up often are supplements, growth hormones, antibiotics, and special diets. So why does healthy eating matter to us, and why does eating well matter for our overall well-being? So we know that when we focus on healthy eating, it helps to promote optimal health, improves our overall well-being, reduces our risk for certain kinds of diseases, especially chronic diseases such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, promotes longevity, and helps to build and maintain a strong immune system. So eating well is comprised of several different things. Sorry, I'm just going to move something that's blocking me here. So eating well helps us to achieve our best health. So what this entails is a combination of foods such as whole grains, healthy proteins, and fiber, and with a focus and emphasis on eating more fruits and vegetables, which is something that we don't get enough of in our society currently. I like this slide. I know it's a little bit busy, but this just came out from the World Cancer Research and American Institute for Cancer Research. And it just kind of summarizes cancer prevention and the recommendations for cancer prevention and prevention of recurrence. So some of the things that are listed on here, and we're going to go into it in more detail, but just the summary is trying to achieve a healthy body weight or a healthier body weight. Being physically active, and that can just even be something such as walking, eating a diet rich in whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and beans and legumes, limiting consumption of fast foods and other processed foods, which may be high in fat, some kind of refined starches and sugars, Limiting consumption of red and processed meat. We're going to get into more detail about what that actually means. Limiting consumption of sugar, especially found in sweetened drinks, such as juices, pops, slushies, that kind of stuff. Limiting alcohol consumption. We'll talk about that some more. Not relying on the use of supplements to help for cancer prevention, getting our nutrients from food. For mothers, breastfeeding your baby can actually help to prevent cancer, particularly breast cancer and some of the gynecological cancers. And after a cancer diagnosis, to follow these recommendations of healthy eating that we're going through, if you can. There's a comment here about smoking and trying to not smoke, obviously quitting smoking and limiting sun exposure. Those are all also very important for cancer prevention. Yeah, is there something, Shannon? No? Okay. So this is just basically what I had just summarized, so that's okay. Okay, so eating well with fruits and vegetables. We know that fruits and vegetables offer us a variety of necessary nutrients, some specific ones, fiber, folic acid, potassium, phosphorus, selenium, vitamin E, vitamin C, vitamin A, magnesium, zinc, calcium, and iodine. Mind you, there's many other vitamins and minerals that are found in fruits and vegetables. So we're going to go over what a serving actually looks like, but just a point that I wanted to make is that most people actually don't get, there's actually quite a significant number of people that don't get any fruits and vegetables every day. So for example, there's 40% of Canadians that don't even get one serving of fruit a day, and 20% of Canadians who never get one serving of vegetables a day. And so if we can focus a little bit more on trying to get in more fruits and vegetables, and I can show you what a serving looks like. So what a serving actually is we should aim for at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables combined every day, if not more. So that could look like 1 cup of raw vegetables, a half a cup of cooked vegetables, 1 cup of, 1 cup of fruit cut up. I'm hitting buttons here, I apologize. Sorry, Shan, I'm trying to move my screen here. Okay. Shannon, can you just let me know if somebody says something in the chat? Because I'm just going to move it out of the way. Please. Okay. Sorry, going back to the servings, it's 1 cup of raw vegetables, half a cup of cooked vegetables, 1 cup of fruit, 1 medium piece of fruit, and then aiming for, I always say at least 5 servings. Combined, the recommendations are actually 7 to 10 servings per day, if possible. Okay. So according to the Canadian Cancer Society, we know that eating lots of fruits and vegetables may help to protect against numerous types of cancers, including mouth cancer, pharyngeal cancer, laryngeal, thyroid, lung, esophageal, non-Hodgkin lymphoma, stomach cancer, and cervical cancers. How we need to try to get more fruits and vegetables in. So sometimes we do need to be creative and explore a variety of different colors, especially when it comes to like the younger, the kids. It's easier to get them to eat fruits and vegetables by making it more fun or colorful, or doing some kind of unique thing with their plates, or even doing like fruit and vegetable skewers, for example. Going for a variety of color. So the more colors that we're able to get, the more nutrients that we get, the more vitamins and minerals that we're able to take in. So we get a good variety. Add 1 or 2 to each meal and snack. So especially lunch and dinner. I always say try to make vegetables your focus first, and then the other food groups such as starches and protein. Think about that next. And filling half of your plate with fruits and vegetables is very important. So the richer the color, the richer the pigment, the more antioxidants we get from our fruits and vegetables, and the more vitamins and minerals we're able to get. Sometimes it's easy to just even keep it handy in the house, maybe on the counter in a bowl where it's visible, or go ahead and wash it ahead of time so you're more likely to grab for it. So talking now about proteins. We know that protein has many functions in our bodies. Protein is important for tissue healing and repair. It builds new cells in our body. And something that a lot of us aren't aware of is protein actually helps us to maintain and build a healthy immune system. So it helps to keep us strong, and it helps to keep us fighting through different kinds of illnesses and sicknesses. Sorry, I just wanted to see. So a lot of the protein-rich foods that we eat also provide certain nutrients like iron, zinc, vitamin B12, and these are all important for our daily functions. So we know that excellent sources of proteins, and these can be considered healthy, include fish and seafood. Going along with that is we often encourage seafood that is rich in omega-3 fatty acids. So for example, salmon, tuna, mackerel, herring, trout, those are all very good sources. That's usually recommended actually 2 to 3 times a week if you're able to include fish and seafood. Chicken, especially lean cuts, trimming the visible fat off any type of chicken or meat before cooking saves a lot of the fat, prevents it from being absorbed during cooking. We know that red meat is also a source of protein. That includes beef, pork, veal, and lamb. We often get the question about how much are we allowed to have, and the current recommendations say 3 or less servings a week. A serving is actually not that big, and we're going to get into that. A serving is like 3 to 4 ounces, which equates to the size of a deck of cards, or the size of, if you picture what a computer mouse looks like, or the palm of your hand. Dairy products can also be an excellent source of protein. They do have milks now available in the store. Sometimes they are a little bit more expensive, which is unfortunate. They do put them on sale, but like Fairlife, for example, is one of those ultra filtered milks. So they have a good amount of protein in there, more protein than your standard types of milk. And also cheese and yogurt, especially Greek style yogurts, tend to have more protein. Legumes, beans, lentils, excellent sources of protein, nuts and seeds, and eggs. And for nuts and seeds, I mean, a good variety. You can include nuts such as cashews, almonds, walnuts, sunflower seeds, and pumpkin seeds. So what does one serving look like again? If we're talking like protein, like animal protein, whether it's chicken, beef, even fish, 3 ounces. I say 3 to 4 ounces. Again, that is like a deck of cards. Cheese, about 1 ounce, which is like the equivalent of four like 4 die there, or the 2 cheese strings, if you can picture what cheese strings looks like, or about 3 dominoes if you were to cut from a brick of cheese. Legumes, every half a cup is a serving, and nuts and seeds, a 1/4 cup or 30 grams. Now you can have several servings a day of various types of protein, depending on what your needs are. But this is just examples of what individual servings look like. And you can kind of see when it comes to the animal sources of protein, just how much that we tend to overdo it when it comes to our society, or when we're out at restaurants, or what just we've become accustomed to eating in our own households. So some guidelines for healthy proteins, trying to stick to that 3-ounce portion. I always tell my patients, if you are still really hungry, or if you're like somebody who's super active and really needs that extra protein, it's okay to go a little bit bigger in the portion size, especially if it is like a very lean source of protein. So for example, the chicken, turkey, or fish. Try to aim for at least 1 meatless meal a week, meaning try to use more vegetarian sources of protein. For example, the beans, the lentils, tofu, things like that. So picking more legumes and pulses. Aiming for a fish-based meal at least once a week. I usually suggest 2 to 3 times a week if you can. Including nuts and seeds more often. Again, just keep in mind that nuts and seeds are healthy, high protein, high fiber, contain healthy fats, but they are rich in fat. So if you're somebody who's also trying to watch your weight and achieve a healthier body weight, you just want to still watch how much you're eating at a portion or at a serving. Okay. So limiting red meat to 2 to 3 servings per week. There are studies to show out there, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of, that eating red and processed meat can increase cancer risk, especially for certain types of cancer. It is associated with increased risk for colorectal, prostate, and pancreatic cancers. Again, just to show you visually what one serving of meat looks like, of red meat. Let me see. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I'm just gonna go back here for a second about the processed meat point. So what we refer to processed meat, we're referring to ham, bacon, salami, hot dogs, and sausages are all examples of processed meats. It's considered a processed meat because of the way it's preserved by smoking, curing, or salting, or by adding preservatives. So when this happens, substances can be formed that can be carcinogenic. And we'll talk a little bit about how much for processed meats, what a serving looks like in a second. So Canadian meat consumption, just to give you an idea, I know these numbers might not mean much to you, but it's just to emphasize that basically what's happening is we're eating more than what's really recommended for our overall health. So if you protein, and then when it comes to protein goals for people, it varies on different factors. So when we calculate grams of protein a day for an individual, it's based on their weight or their ideal body weight, their activity, any kind of diagnoses they may be dealing with, any stress to the body, any kind of surgery. So if you're looking for more details on that, that's where you'd want to meet with a dietitian to help you. With the calculating that and hitting your protein targets. So what are processed meats? I kind of already went through that: ham, bacon, salami, hot dogs, sausages, and lunch meats. These are some foods that we obviously do want to avoid. I know they're hard to avoid sometimes because they're convenient as well. For example, making a sandwich for lunch, you tend to gravitate towards the turkey or salami or mortadella or things like that. What's considered, so they want you to have, not to try not to have it every day. There's no specific recommendations from Health Canada or the American guidelines to say how much, but if you can limit it to a few days a week, and down to one serving, which really is equivalent of eating like 2 slices of a lunch meat or ham, or 1 hot dog, 1 small sausage, just to give you an idea, or 2 to 3 slices of bacon. So talking a little bit about carcinogenic substances. So carcinogenic meaning can be cancer causing. There's a chemical that does occur. It's called heterocyclic amines, and they're formed when we cook foods at very high temperatures. So for example, when we're cooking meat on the barbecue, and polyaromatic hydrocarbons are formed when smoke adheres to the surface of meat. So these both produce carcinogenic, or considered carcinogenic substances. And again, it's usually when we're cooking things at very, very high temperatures, or sometimes smoking meats can cause these to occur. So when cooking meats at high temperatures, you got to be careful. So try to cook at lower temperatures. Try to braise, steam, and roast more often. Barbecue on low and slow, and flip it often to avoid that black char on the meat or on the steak, for example. Marinades help reducing the portion size when cooking, lowering the temperature, flipping often, using more fish and shellfish because you don't have that same effect when cooking, and adding fruits and veggies to a meal or on the barbecue. So just keep in mind that if you were to cook like a plant-based burger on the barbecue, like a portobello mushroom burger, it will not create those cancer-causing substances. It's more to do with the meat itself. So that's why we encourage you to do more grilled vegetable options when you can. Okay, so just moving on to whole grains and fiber. Does anybody have any questions right now?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. Ever since I've had my radiation, I've really been struggling to eat fruit or anything sweet.
Yeah.
Everything just tastes so metallic.
Yeah.
Is there any way that I can change that?
Yeah. How long has it been that you've been done your treatment?
I finished my treatment in April this year.
Okay. It's been about 6 months, eh? I'm surprised. I'm surprised. Is it getting better though, or is it the same?
I don't think it's really as bad, but it's
Okay.
still, it's, it, I just don't want to eat my fruit. Like,
Yeah.
I love my vegetables,
Yeah.
but struggling with my fruit.
Yeah. So sometimes it affects everybody differently. So some people will taste certain things or have an aversion for certain things, and for you, it's more the fruit. What I would say for right now, while things are continuing to improve, because it should improve, is there's a few things you can do. So focus on the vegetables, definitely, if that's something you do like, because fruit and vegetables offer the same vitamins and minerals. Okay, so that's a good thing that you're still eating your vegetables.
Oh, I love vegetables.
Yeah, so that's great. The
Okay.
metallic, to counteract the metallic, there's a couple things you can do. I would, for a while, not use metal utensils if you can avoid it. If you have some wood or plastic utensils at home, chopsticks, whatever, that would be better for you right now to see if that makes a difference. If you're drinking anything out of a can, just avoid that. So avoid anything metallic-y in your mouth. Also doing those oral mouth rinses 3 to 4 times a day with the baking soda and water. You want to do it before you eat for sure, and then at bedtime, or before and after, and then bedtime. So that tends to help to kind of re-stimulate. The other thing is using like lemon, sucking on a sugar-free lemon candy, or just adding lemon to whatever you can just to see if it'll bring those taste buds back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are some additional things like that I can share through later to everybody, just how to help with taste. If you want, I can send that through at the end, or whenever Shannon sends through the PowerPoint, if that's okay. Yeah. It will get better. It just takes a little bit of time for everybody, but I would say for right now, focus on your vegetable intake.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. So, whole grains, are especially important. So we know that eating grains rich in fiber can decrease cancer risk. And whole grains we know offers the most fiber. And in addition to that, a lot of these grains are also offering other important nutrients and antioxidants. So whole grains not only help in prevention of cancer, but it helps in the prevention of heart disease, diabetes, and it also helps us just to manage those diseases. So like, for example, if we already have diabetes, focusing on whole grains and high fiber helps us to control our blood sugars even more. And it also provides these protective compounds like phytochemicals that help us to prevent cancer. Okay. So when we say whole grain, what that really means is it includes the entire grain intact. So that means the germ, the bran, and the endosperm are all intact. A refined grain means that they've stripped or removed the bran and the germ. So all you're left is with the endosperm. And when that stripping happens, we lose a lot of those vital nutrients that we mentioned. So types of whole grains include whole wheat, bulgur, oatmeal, quinoa, brown rice, barley, and ancient grains. Some of the ancient grains, you know, if you just take a look at the slide, include things like spelt, buckwheat, teff, millet, bulgur. Okay. Sometimes even just getting online and looking up a recipe, you'll find some really great ideas online, but we can help you with that too if you're looking for any ideas. So how do we identify whole grains on a label? We want to read labels for 100% whole grain. You need to be looking for the word whole. Okay. Read the ingredient labels for whole wheat or brown rice or whole oats or bulgur or whole rye. It is so important to see that on there. So for example, at this ingredient list here, you can see listed right in the beginning of the ingredient list, it's whole wheat flour. So you know that this product's made from a whole grain. Whereas the other one is saying enriched flour, bleached. So enriched sounds good. I mean, they've added back in some nutrients that they've taken out, but it's not considered whole. So you're not getting all the same benefits of the fiber and all the nutrients. So remember that refined grains do lack some of the nutrients that are found in the whole grain counterpart. Okay. Yeah, and select grain products lowest in added sugar if you can. It gets tricky when you're reading labels. I just wanted to mention that, for example, it sounds like they're whole grain, but they're not. So these ones do not necessarily mean 100% whole grain. So multigrain is comprised of many grains, but it doesn't mean that they were whole grains. They could have been stripped. Stone ground, even sometimes 100% whole wheat can be tricky because you don't see whole grain. You got to know that it's come from a whole grain. 7 grain, again, made up of 7 grains, but are they whole grain and cracked wheat? So these are all tricky. They're not terrible. They're not, you can still continue to eat them, but if you're looking for that whole grain to get the most benefit, that's what you want to look for. So we recommend making half or more of our grains whole grains. So again, doesn't mean we're not going to eat a white bread or white bun or a croissant. It's not like that. It's just trying to aim for at least half of your grains whole grains. Check labels, like we just mentioned, and try to experiment with different grains each week if you can. Get creative with some new recipes. So again, some other tips, choosing brown or wild rice over white rice, or even just like a long grain, parboiled, converted rice like that. Snack on whole grain rye or 100% whole grain crackers. Add extra bulgur or barley to soups or use it as side dishes. Try quinoa or an ancient grain salad. And definitely try to start your first meal of the day with some whole grain cereal like oatmeal or cashew, or and then add fresh fruit to it just to get your fruit in. Okay. So fiber, super important. Fiber helps us with healthy digestion. So we know that it helps to keep us regular, keep our bowels moving. May reduce the risk of certain cancers and disease. And recommendation, this is just a range. Again, we can narrow it down more based on age, gender, weight, things like that, but 25 to 38 grams per day. Many of us, unfortunately, are not getting that amount. Most of us only get half of that, 15 grams a day. So that's something that we want to focus on a little bit more and try to get in. Again, good sources of fiber, whole grains, which we already mentioned, fruit and vegetables. They all have fiber, different amounts of fiber. Fiber is found in the fruit itself and vegetable itself and the skin. There's 2 kinds of fiber: insoluble, that helps us to move our bowels, and soluble, which helps us to soften our bowels or also helps us to feel full, gives us blood sugar control, and helps with cholesterol. So there's always those 2 types found in all fruits and vegetables in different amounts. Berries have a lot of fiber. Nuts and seeds, pulses like peas and lentils, and legumes such as beans. On the right, there's a picture there of a lot of the different types of high fiber foods. In addition to some of the ones I mentioned, the brown rice we talked about, all kinds of fruits and vegetables, dark green leafy vegetables, popcorn. And then whenever you do leave the skin on a fruit or a vegetable, you get more fiber. So, fiber especially protects against colorectal cancer. So anytime we want to focus on it to just keep our bowels moving regularly, because that's super important for our colon health. How can we increase fiber? Read nutrition labels. So if there's a label, obviously fresh fruit and vegetables, there's no label. There's obviously apps out there. You can just Google if you really wanted to know how much fiber is in certain fruits and vegetables per serving. But if it's a label, on the label itself, it'll have a serving at the top of whatever product it is, for example, cereal. And it doesn't mean you have to eat that serving. It's just saying if you eat that serving and then you scan down to where the fiber line is, it'll tell you how many grams per serving there is. So if it has 4 grams or more, it's considered high fiber. Berries provide the highest source of fiber for fruits. Eat a variety of fruits and vegetables every day. Include the skins when you can. Choose whole grains, like we already mentioned. I wish that we had like we had a label example, but in addition to the grams of fiber listed, next to the gram listing, there's always a percentage. So next time you look at a label, just notice that percent. It's called a percent daily value. So if it's 15% or higher, that also means it's high in fiber. So yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So ways to get more fiber in. Again, okay, sorry, we already talked a lot about this, but start your day with fiber, go for bran, whole grain breakfast cereals, add bran to your favorite cereal or low fat yogurt. Some people like to add like those all bran buds to yogurt, for example. You can try a whole grain pasta if you want, and just once in a while you can substitute it. Substitute whole wheat flour in baking. Add pulses such as beans, lentils to soups, stews, and stir fries. Add chickpeas to salad, and add lentils into meatloaf. Those are just some examples. Or even just like having like a black bean burrito, that'll offer a lot of fiber. Okay. Any questions about the fiber section or whole grain section? Nope. Okay. So functional foods. Okay, so we're going to explain what functional food is. So a functional food is a food that is shown to have a positive effect on health beyond basic nutrition. So it's proven to help promote optimal health and reduce the risk of disease. It's usually rich in antioxidants, healthy proteins, and carbohydrates. Okay, and I'm going to go over a list of some functional foods that we want to include more often in our daily diets. So, for example, nuts such as cashews and almonds, barley, oats, legumes, berries, cruciferous vegetables, and that would be broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, orange and red fruits and vegetables. Again, you want to get a big variety of deep colored ones. So any, like, for example, even like blueberries, because they're deep blue, right? But orange and red does actually take care of a lot of vitamins and minerals. So that way it, yeah, so when we eat those regularly, we do get a good combination of them all. And then the dark green leafy vegetables. So focusing on those deep colors. Just to go a little bit into more, and then something that's not on there is the cold water fish. So for example, like salmon, including it 2 to 3 times a week, something like that, like an omega-3 fortified fish. Keep in mind too, something I didn't mention about fruits and vegetables, they can be eaten from frozen as well. And it still has the same nutritional value, if not better sometimes, because when fruits and vegetables are frozen, it does lock in a lot of their nutrients. We can unfortunately denature some of our vegetables when we cook them. So that's why we usually want to try to grill them or steam them when we can, unless we're cooking them in some type of soup and we're able to drink up all the nutrients that are in the broth. Oh, there's cold water fish. I don't know why it popped up last. Okay. Okay. So these are more specifics on this group of vegetables and whole grains and fruit. So for dark green leafy vegetables, at least 1.5 cups per week. Red and orange fruits and vegetables, 5.5 cups per week. Legumes, 1.5 cups per week. Fruit intake, we know daily, we want to have at least 2 cups, or again, that 5 to 7 servings a day. And then that goes also for the vegetables, but whole grain intake, we want to have that every day if we can. Okay. So our plates don't usually look like that, but putting it all together, the idea here is, step one is try to make half your plate vegetables and maybe a fruit. It's super important. It should always be the largest part of the meal. We need to shift our eating habits towards more fruits and vegetables and not so much on the starches and the meats. They are good for us too. They have a role where, carbohydrates are very important. We just need to focus again more on the fruits and vegetables. Choosing whole grains again when we can. And then, of course, again, focusing on our healthy proteins. This just came out. I like the visual. It came out from the American Institute for Cancer Research, where we can see where we need to make the shift from how our plate has looked in the recent, past to where it should be now. So we want to emphasize again those bright colors, lots of fruits and vegetables, healthy protein, and still having a serving of some type of whole grain starch. So habits you can change right now. I do find sometimes it's easier to plan ahead for the week if you can. Sometimes making a list when you go out grocery shopping and having your meals planned out, adding one more fruit and vegetable to every meal and snack, including more of those functional foods that were listed, trying a meatless meal again once a week. Recommendations now are saying 2 to 3 times a week if you can, having a vegetarian type meal. Not that we're saying to be vegetarian, but focus on fruits and vegetables more. Trying a fish-based meal at least once a week. I usually recommend 2 to 3 times a week if you can. And just rethinking your plate. That means, just take a look at what you're actually eating and think about ways and you can make it healthier, or just to look at the portions of what you're eating. And limit processed foods. We want to think about whole foods more often when we can. Okay, so talking about sugar, we get that topic a lot. So if you have questions about this, just let me know. So we know that there's added sugar. Added sugar gets added to the foods we eat. So for example, cookies, cakes and pastries, candy, soft drinks, and condiments. And then there's naturally occurring sugars that occur in fruits and vegetables and milk, for example. So we know that foods higher in sugar are generally not a very good nutrition source. It's hard to understand when we say the Canadian Health Organization recommends that no more than 10% of our total daily calories come from sugar. And we can get into more details about that if you wanted to one-on-one. But if the average person is eating 2,000 calories a day, 10% is about 48 grams of sugar, or 12 sugar cubes. And you can think about a medium double coffee from Tim Hortons already has 21 grams of sugar. So, and then a medium French vanilla has 40 grams of sugar. And some of the pastries there have 30 grams of sugar. So you can see where sugar that we add to our drinks or some of the high sugar products we eat already almost surpass our recommendation for the day. Doesn't mean we don't eat those foods. We all enjoy certain treats and things, but it's important just to think about what else we eat in the day when we're eating some of those, and just overall to limit our sugar intake. Okay, so we often get the question about sugar and cancer. So sugar as an ingredient does not increase your risk of developing cancer. But what it does to your body can do the following. So we know that diets high in added sugar may contribute to weight gain, may lead to obesity, and then this increases our cancer risk. We also get the question about, does sugar feed cancer when we have cancer? There's actually no studies to show us that eating sugar directly feeds our cancer cells. What is the risk with sugar is exactly what we show here. It's more of what sugar does to our body. So sugar leading to weight gain can increase our risk of cancer. We have to keep in mind that when we hear things out there on the internet, it's not always accurate, and it could be one thought that gets blown up out of proportion. So for example, we know that our bodies rely on carbohydrates as our main energy source. And so I personally feel that that information was taken. So we know that when we eat carbohydrates, our body utilizes it. And even from when we're in utero, right, we need to grow and develop. And I think somebody took that and thought, well, then if we eat carbohydrates, it must go right to the cancer cell and make our cancer cell grow. But that in fact doesn't happen. We know that we need energy, and it helps all of our cells when we eat well. And the biggest thing going through cancer and cancer treatment is you need to eat well. You need to maintain a good, healthy weight. You need to, we don't want you losing a lot of weight. We want you to be getting your protein in. And it's most important to just be eating well and maintaining your weight to get through your cancer treatment. So once again, there's no evidence to show that eating sugar feeds cancer. But overall, do we need to lower our sugar intake? Yes, we need to focus on complex carbohydrates more often. Again, complex carbs coming from our whole grain breads and cereals and pastas and our fruit. So that's what's most important. So not to be afraid of eating things like that. And then when we want to still enjoy a treat, a dessert, something like that, that's okay. It's just everything in moderation.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, oh, maybe this is where we're gonna get to here. So when I bake, say I was gonna make a oatmeal cookie of some sort.
Yeah.
I tried to look to bake with substitute my sugars with unsweetened applesauce.
Yeah.
And or else if I can't do that, because sometimes you're using that unsweetened applesauce to replace some of the oils
Yes.
or some of the sugar. Is it any healthier using honey or pure maple syrup instead of refined sugar?
So it's a good question, actually. So there's not really too much of a difference, to be honest, because once you ingest it, it gets broken down into sugar. Like, do you know what I mean? To the most basic form of sugar. So it's not that it's if you can use less of another type, then you're cutting down on the sugar. But either way, if it makes any sense, it's all sugar. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
you can still, I would go with maybe what you're going to end up using less of if you're trying to cut down on the sugar, like depending on your recipe. Like I would do that. Another option, some people like to use like the Splenda. You know, you can use Splenda sugar or Splenda brown sugar, or like a stevia type thing, something like that to save on sugar too. If you don't want to use those type of products, then you know, using the applesauce is a great idea. Or like I said, just using less of one of these types of sugars, you know, that's listed here in this chart here, if you can see it. So you can see that honey is also listed there, like you mentioned, honey. Yeah, maple syrup. Yeah, it doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's bad. Again, it all comes down to moderation and portion control, right? Like you got to remember it's the quantity we eat too of the foods we eat that becomes an issue. It's not just the fact that, oh, you're baking with sugar. It's, well, how many cookies are we having in one sitting, for example? You know, as you have to look at that too, right? So, and what else are we eating in the entire day? So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. So just some strategies to cut down on sugar, sorry. So to rethink our drinks, a big issue right now is the drinks that people are buying, soft drinks, fruit drinks, coffee and tea, adding sugar to it. A lot of sport and energy drinks do have sugar, alcoholic drinks. We know that a lot of snack foods and sweets contain sugar. Some of our grains might have like sugar, whether it's made with a lot of sugar or there's sugar on top of it. Yeah, just things to think about like that. We have to just cut down. I think the big thing is drinking less sugary drinks, but also the portions and the sizes that we see out there now. We've become accustomed to buying larges and extra larges of things when we need to go back to having the smalls and the kid size or the extra small. Okay, so talking a little bit about healthy body weight. So one of the most important things you can do to reduce your risk of cancer is to try to maintain a healthy body weight, or at least try to achieve a healthier body weight. So it doesn't mean we all are different shapes and sizes, but any changes we can make in achieving a healthier body weight helps us to be healthier overall. So we know that unfortunately, being obese can lead to certain types of cancers. And they're all listed here. Like there's many, you can see the list of breast cancer, brain cancer, pancreatic cancer. There's obviously so many other factors that come into play, when it comes to cancer risk. There's still that having that idea that, calories in and calories out is a big thing to think about when losing weight. I find for depending on the person, there's so many factors. It could be genetics, it could be lifestyle, it could be obviously physical activity. There's so many things, certain diseases you're dealing with. So it's not as easy as food in and calories in, calories out. Definitely we do need to try to be more active to try to burn off some of the calories that we ingest. There's a lot of other factors to think about, like I said. So sometimes finding the right plan that works for you or your body type is super important. So things to think about when it comes to healthy body weights is fat cells produce substances that may promote the growth of cancer. Central obesity increases insulin resistance. The pancreas produces more insulin, and prolonged high insulin levels promote cancer cell growth. So that's just talking more specific about what happens with the obesity and the fat cells. Okay, so you've always heard probably about the body mass index. It's not always the most accurate tool because, factors such as muscle mass can also impact your weight. We know that. So achieving a healthier body mass index or BMI is important. What's considered normal is between roughly 19 and 25. As you get older, so over the age of 65, your BMI can be a little bit higher. And the reason is just to have extra weight on you, a little bit extra reserves in case of illness. But typically the normal range is 19 to 25. Again, there's other factors like muscle mass that can affect how much you weigh on a scale. Is there somebody in the chat?
It
What is
just,
it? Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry, I just noticed that right now. I apologize. Okay, I'm going to go back to the fish question. Is there no concern about too much fish in your diet anymore? So the concern about fish, there's a couple things to think about is we want to be careful with mercury containing fish. So that's where we have to watch the quantity. Fish like salmon or canned tuna, your small fish tend to have lower amounts of mercury. So we still want to be careful though how much we eat, and that's why we usually give the recommendation of 1 to 3 times a week. It also depends on how you're preparing it. So obviously if we're eating deep fried fish all the time, we're not eating the healthiest, right? Because it's got now extra fat in it. So when you can eat your fish more grilled, baked, steamed, or doing more like shellfish, things like that, that would be a better choice. Second question, what is central obesity? That basically means everybody has a different body type, but it's excess fat or weight around the midsection. So usually like right under like the breast and down. So like just right in the middle. So not so much the hip area, but all in the middle. I hope that explained that. Okay. All right, some tips to maintain a healthy body weight. Trying again, everything we're doing, eating well. We do have to focus on sometimes decreasing our portions of certain foods. Maybe we are eating too many calories and we're not even aware of it. That's something, you might need to sit down with somebody about to look closer at your eating. Moving more, sitting less. We know that obviously being active helps us to expend more energy and burn more calories and help us to achieve a healthier body weight. It also helps us to build muscle mass. Anytime we carry more lean muscle mass, we're able to burn more fat. Drinking water, that's just meaning like drink more water versus drinking beverages that have calories in it. And focus on healthier behaviors instead of your weight. Don't get so weight obsessed, focusing on keeping active, keeping distractive, and remembering that we all come in different shapes and sizes. That's what's most important. Okay, so alcohol. So the latest guidelines that came out actually say to drink as little as possible, to drink none, really. And then that's kind of a hard recommendation because there are people that still do enjoy a drink and want to have a drink and need some guidelines still. We know that any type of alcohol intake may raise our risk of developing cancer, unfortunately. So that's why they're saying try not to drink any if you can avoid it. The cancers that it tends to increase the risk of are mouth, laryngeal, pharyngeal, esophageal, breast, liver, and colorectal cancers. The less you drink, the more you reduce your risk. And tobacco and alcohol together actually worsen the risk. What does a drink look like? So that's like having, so if you can, limit it. This is what the recommendations were before they said drink as little as possible. It's 1 drink for women and 2 drinks for men per day. So a drink though equals 5 ounces of wine, 1.5 ounces of an alcohol or liquor, and 12 ounces of beer. So some other topics of nutrition to think about include antioxidants, genetically modified organisms or GMOs, growth hormones and antibiotics, and just some other special diets. I just want to grab something. Okay. So I don't know how well you guys can see that. If you're gonna get the PowerPoint anyway, but this lists like some of the antioxidants that are very beneficial for cancer prevention. There's something as well that I've helped to develop that I'll add to it if it's not on there, but vitamin E, for example, in sunflower seeds, almonds, wheat germ, avocados, vitamin A, carrots, sweet potatoes, pumpkin, turnip greens, vitamin C found in, we obviously know our citrus fruits, kiwi, broccoli, sweet peppers. Vitamin C is actually very easy to get from food. Cryptozanthin, butternut squash, tangerines, papaya. Selenium is in mixed nuts, turkey, wheat, tuna, wheat germ. Astaxanthin, sorry, I can never say that one, lobster, crab, shrimp, seaweed, and salmon, anthocyanin, eggplant, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, and red cabbage, lycopene in tomatoes, watermelon, it's like that red color, lutein, spinach, mustard greens, green peas, catechins, dark chocolate, green tea. There's benefit to show if you can drink green tea every day. If you can drink 5 cups of green tea, even better, but any green tea consumption. And quercetin in onions, apples, parsley, olive oil, and dark cherries. A couple of other things on my list. I had mentioned the omega-3. Omega-3 is not only found in seafood, but you can get it in ground flaxseed and plant oils such as flaxseed oil and canola oil. Resveratrol, which is found in, it's a polyphenol found in grapes, especially your purple grapes. It's anti-inflammatory. It's found in cranberries and mulberries. Another thing, obviously, vitamin D. I don't think it's on there. We can get from the sun, we know that, or else from our dairy products. Turmeric is another one. The deep orange, yellow spice that you can cook with and bake with. And the other thing is we need to focus on beta carotene from our vegetables, that orange color, carrots, sweet potatoes, it's in our fruit, cantaloupe. Don't take it in supplemental form. We don't recommend that. Just get this all from food when you can. Cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and catechins found in pomegranate. So pomegranate's known to have pretty powerful antioxidants. So we know they're found naturally in foods, and our best sources are fruits and vegetables. Supplements do not provide the antioxidant benefit, which is the cancer prevention benefit. And it protects the body cells from free radicals. Phytochemicals are natural compounds found in plants. Again, a lot of these I just keep repeating. As you can see, they keep popping up. So a lot of the vibrant color that you find in fruits and vegetables are phytochemicals. So some of the most abundant are apples, carrots, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, garlic, onions, legumes, cabbage, red peppers, sweet potato, and tomato. They include carotenoids, flavonoids, indoles, and isoflavones. Don't worry about those terms. They're just all phytochemicals that are cancer preventive. And, you know, they're still researching them. We know there's benefit. We don't know exactly how they reduce like the extent to which they reduce cancer risk, but we know that they have a protective factor and help reduce free radical damage. The vitamin D's popping up here now. Sources include the salmon, like fatty fish with the bones, dairy products, juices and cereals that are fortified with vitamin D, and obviously skin exposure to the sunlight. 1,000 international units per day is what's suggested. This is one of those vitamins that you can take a supplement for, and it's beneficial because a lot of us lack it in our diets or don't get enough sunlight. So it doesn't hurt to take that every day. Genetically modified foods. So in Canada has 15 GMO foods, 4 grown in Canada, regulated according to strict standards. Unfortunately, labeling, if you're somebody who wants to know if something's GMO, food is not mandatory. So you don't really know by looking at a label. And there's no reliable evidence to support the claim that GMO foods cause cancer. So as of right now, I mean, that's something that's on a personal level. Like if that's something you're not comfortable eating, then you would avoid. But as of right now, the studies aren't showing that GMO foods do in fact cause cancer. I just want to see if I'm missing here. So the 4 foods that are grown in Canada that are GMO, just for your knowledge, are canola, soybean, corn, and sugar beets. And the ones that are exported are alfalfa, papaya, and squash. So GMOs are used to introduce desirable characteristics like disease resistance, and they remove any undesirable characteristics like browning of apples. So they make they make obviously our fruit and vegetables look a little better. Yeah. Okay. So bottom line, they're considered safe in our food supply. But again, I always say that's an individual choice. If you're not comfortable, that's something that you can choose to eat or avoid. Okay, so growth hormones, lots of questions about growth hormones and antibiotics. Growth hormones do actually occur naturally in all animals. It is approved in Canada for beef production only. And antibiotics are used in Canada to treat and prevent disease in animals and fruit crops. So that way we are able to eat those foods. They must meet strict standards of safety. And as of any studies and research that's been done, there's no physiological significance to human health. So in Canada, again, hormones are approved for use in cows and beef product only. So it allows for producing leaner beef at a lower cost. So cows make muscle more easily. Growth hormones are not permitted for cows in milk production or in poultry or pork. Antibiotics are approved for use in beef, dairy cattle, chickens, laying hens, turkeys, pork, fish, and it's sprayed on fruit use and use of honeybees. And all antibiotics must meet the strict Health Canada standards for human and animal safety. And growth hormones and antibiotic levels are monitored for safety through the Chemical Residue Surveillance Program. Organic food, however, is not allowed to be produced with the use of growth hormones or antibiotics. So the good thing about living in Canada is we do have a lot of strict rules and standards for the use of hormones and antibiotics. So there's a lot of testing and rigorous, just rigorous testing and rules that people have to follow. So we can feel that our food is a little bit safer. Special diets. So some other things to think about is organic food. Lots of questions about organic food. So we know that organic food means it's produced without pesticides or GMO, growth hormones, or antibiotics. We actually don't have enough evidence to say that they're healthier. There's a lot of evidence to show that we can't really prove that anything is truly 100% organic. So sometimes we are spending a little bit more money on these foods and it's not offering us 100% organic or any added nutritional benefit. So there are though, and this is something again we can send through. So if you wanted to just make a mention of that at the end, there are certain types of fruits and vegetables that contain less pesticides, if that is something we are worried about. So the ones that are least contaminated are avocados, sweet corn, pineapple, cabbage, sweet peas, onions, asparagus, mangoes, papayas, kiwi, eggplant, and grapefruit. Don't worry if you don't remember this, we can send this all. But produce most contaminated. And these are ones we eat often, so not to be afraid, but some people do like to know this information. Apples, peaches, nectarines, strawberries, grapes, celery, spinach, sweet bell peppers, cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, snap peas that are imported, and potatoes. So what's most important, it's not that you need to buy organic. What's most important is Health Canada still says is just to make sure that you are washing your fruits and vegetables very well prior to ingesting them. It is still recommended that plain water is best and is the easiest and does remove a lot of the residue and pesticides that may be on it. You want to obviously wash it for a little while, at least 30 seconds under running water. If you have a brush and you can use a brush to scrub on certain fruits and vegetables, even better. Some people do like to soak their fruit and that's fine if you prefer to do that. And what's recommended is a teaspoon of baking soda to 2 cups of cold water, and you can soak your fruit for about 12 to 15 minutes prior to ingesting. So then rinse it off and then eat. Oh, sorry. Vegetarian diet. Again, it's not something that we are saying you have to eat. Animal proteins can definitely fit in a healthy way into our regular diets. Vegetarian diets usually just means it excludes like meat, chicken, and fish. It tends to include a lot of fruits and vegetables, hopefully a lot of protein-rich vegetables and legumes, tofu, and some also continue to include dairy. It just depends on how strict. It's just a personal choice. If you are deciding you're going to do more vegetarian, you do want to make sure that you're getting all the necessary nutrients, protein. Protein is easy to get if you're doing it right. You have to combine the right proteins to make intact, complete proteins that your body can utilize. And obviously making sure you're getting a lot of the important vitamins and minerals that are found in a lot of our animal products. So your B12 and iron and so on. Ketogenic diet, we know is primarily fat, then protein, and very low carb. Very difficult to maintain. No studies to show it can benefit in cancer prevention. Can actually be quite harmful. It does create almost like a toxic effect in our bloodstream when done in the long term. Like if done for a long time, it causes ketosis, which means your body goes into fat burning mode, which is okay for a little bit, but over time, again, it's making the body full of something called ketones. So it's not beneficial for the long run. And again, very hard to maintain. You will lose weight initially on it, but then once you go back to just eating regularly, you do put some of that weight back on, if not more. So it's better to just watch your calorie intake overall and just watch your portions and servings of each individual food group and make healthier choices. So this is not something that's recommended in cancer specifically. Alkaline diet, we know it eliminates a lot of healthy foods that we actually recommend you eat. And just please keep in mind, it is impossible to change the pH of our cells with diet. So this is a diet that tells you that you can change the pH of your cells to help you to prevent or treat cancer. But when we change the alkalinity of our foods, all it's doing is changing the alkalinity of our urine. It has nothing to do with our blood, and it has nothing to do with our cells. So please keep that in mind. You're just affecting your urine. Okay, so this is kind of just like a summary, I guess, of some of the things we've talked about. So trying to start our day with whole grains, such as oatmeal or another type of whole grain high fiber cereal. Adding fresh or frozen berries to cereal. Adding bran, for example, to peanut butter and toast or yogurt. If a recipe calls for 1 cup of flour, try substituting it for or half of it even with whole grain flour. Try quinoa salads with fresh vegetables. Include skins with fruits and vegetables when you can. Create a whole grain pilaf with a mix of grains like barley, wild rice, spices, and toasted nuts. Snack on whole grain rye or 100% whole grain crackers. Try to introduce new types of ancient grains in a stir fry. In stews and chilies, reduce the meat portion by half. And with double the vegetables, try to substitute meat with a legume, more beans and lentils, for example. On your pizza, replace pepperoni with roasted chicken and load it with vegetables. Chop meat into small pieces for stir fries, pasta dishes, or salads. Try sandwiches with hummus or cheese and veggies. Have processed meats for special occasions, like hot dogs for barbecue and ham for holidays. Or just limit the lunch meat that we put in our sandwiches just a couple times a week. Try a fruit smoothie to go, include a variety of colored fruits, add banana slices to peanut butter and toast, add fresh or frozen berries to cereal, try an egg frittata with fresh vegetables, include more fresh fruits, trying yogurt with fresh fruit like frozen berries, topped with nuts or seeds, hearty oatmeal with toasted seeds and fresh fruit, whole grain cereals with milk and banana, and whole grain toast with nut butters and fresh fruit slices. For lunch ideas, trying vegetable and legume-based soups with extra vegetables. Go for salads with more dark green leafy vegetables, colorful chopped veggies, adding peppers, for example. Healthy proteins, lean chicken or turkey, or topping it with a mix of nuts and seeds. Whole grain wrap with extra veggies, hummus, and cheese. Try stir fries or stews, add cucumber, tomatoes, and spinach to sandwiches. Include colorful fresh fruits like berries, add a side of veggies with a healthy dip. Keep in mind, dips can be a little bit fatty if we're not careful or if we're using too much. And include a side of roasted veggies. Dinner, same idea as lunch, to be honest. Just be creative, try stir fries, add more vegetables, try ancient grains. again, more veggies. It just talks a lot about just really focusing on trying to include more veggies when we can. I always say if you can think about at least one vegetable at a meal, especially dinner, and maybe even a second vegetable. So for example, doing like broccoli and also having a salad with your protein and with your starch. There's a lot of healthy snack ideas. I mean, these are just some, trail mix, plain popcorn, obviously fresh fruit, whole grain snack bars, pita and hummus, veggie sticks with a healthy dip. You can do so many things. A yogurt, you can do whole grain crackers with a lower fat cheese. Sometimes freezing fruit makes it for a really nice like snack. Frozen grapes are really good to snack on. Apple slices with dip. Again, a peanut butter dip. I'd be careful with some of those sweeter dips, but banana with peanut butter, nuts and seeds, berries. Yeah. And then again, just to end it with that same World Cancer Research Fund image about all the things we want to try to do to help us prevent cancer and cancer recurrence. So trying to achieve a healthier body weight, being physically active, focusing on whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and beans, limiting our fast food and processed food consumption, limiting our intake of red and processed meats, limiting our intake of sugar and sweet drinks, limiting alcohol consumption. Don't rely on supplements to help us prevent cancer. Get your nutrients and antioxidants from food. For mothers, if breastfeeding is recommended, if you can, of course, and just focusing on trying overall to make little changes, and everything in moderation. Sources of information. There's so many places you can look for valid information. Canadian Cancer Society, American Cancer Society, cancer.net, National Cancer Institute, Health Canada, unlockfood.ca, Dietitians of Canada, and the American Dietetic Association. And that is everything. Thank you guys for your time tonight. And do you guys have any questions?
I just want to mention, I'm really finding the labeling on foods a challenge. I find if I do my own homemade granola bars, I know exactly what's in that. There just seems to be so much preservatives and so many foods that you buy, and everything seems to have so much salt. Is it really better to go with something like a Mrs. Dash rather than regular salt, or is it better to have sea salt, kosher salt?
So that comes down to a couple things. Like, so if you're somebody who has to watch your salt intake, like we know that we all generally eat too much salt, especially if we're buying packaged foods. If you're cooking at home, if you can cook with less salt, or if you're using a little bit in like a big amount, like for your family, for example, that's okay. The biggest way to cut back on salt is to get used to not adding it to your plate directly. So as soon as you add a teaspoon of salt to your direct food, you've already maxed out your recommended intake for the day. So that's how quickly we get salt in our diets. Salt is not a bad thing necessarily. We all need sodium, right? We all need sodium in our blood. If you already cut back by not eating out too often, limiting the processed foods, or choosing lower salt options and then using less salt at home, you're okay. Mrs. Dash, you don't really necessarily need to use. People who are on a sodium restriction usually need to use Mrs. Dash because they really have a very strict guideline of how much to take. But you can use it if you really wanted to. Sea salt is still a salt, so it's not a better alternative. It's pretty much the same. It just depends on if you prefer that taste of sea salt versus a table salt. Anything with the word salt in it's a salt. So whether it's like garlic salt, celery salt, onion salt, it's all a salt.
Yeah, I try to buy my spices like garlic.
Yeah. Or use experiment with other spices. Yeah, powder, garlic powder, onion powder, parsley, oregano.
Yeah. And the other thing is, how can I get a PowerPoint of this? And can I get one of the previous meetings, because I was away, so I didn't get those. Is there any way I can do that?
Shannon, are you there?
Yeah, so I if you're registered for this session, that's how I get the emails to send out the items. So if you weren't previously registered for the other ones, Just send me a quick email back when I send you these slides,
Okay.
just so I can pull your email from that. And then I'll resend all of the other presentations to you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, great. And thank you for the information.
You're welcome. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And like we said, if you have any questions that pop up, you can just send a message to that email that's on the first slide. Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, thank you, everyone. I will be in touch in probably tomorrow with these slides, and then also the questionnaire just about the sessions. They're always helpful for us. But thank you, everyone, for joining. And again, I hope you took something away from each of our 5 sessions. And then if you fill out the survey, that's helpful. The next session of these renew will be in the springtime. So we just like to make any updates and changes as new patients come along and reach new people. But again, thank you for joining us, and everyone have a good night and happy Halloween. We're almost to November.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.